Nataliya Sedletska is the anchor and the editor-in-chief of one of the most popular and impactful investigative program scheme for the Radio Free Liberty, and had been investigating a lot of high-level corruption in Ukraine here. So Nataliya, we're now here at MezhyhiryaFest trying to assess some of the phenomena. So now, how is it for your team working? How the corruption in Ukraine has changed and the work of the journalists? You have your program and your journalists, the court cases with the security service, and you do have difficulties today. What are they, and what do we need to know about how the corruption changed here?
Sure, the corruption changed. We could say that under Yanukovych regime, corruption schemes were much simpler, and on one hand, it was easier to investigate them. Now corruption schemes are more complicated, but at the same moment we were able, with the help of this civil society and civil organizations, we were able to disclose the public registries. So it made it made easier for us to uncover this corruption, because we've got open register of companies, open registry of assets, of land registry, and so on. So it's much easier to investigate. But now politicians and corruptioners, they just hide it better.
Do you know any particular, let's say, industry, which are probably the most closed, where it's the hardest to dig?
The army contracts are very closed, and it's really hard to investigate procurements for the Ministry of Defense. But also, if we talk where the most corrupted spheres are, I would say that it is state companies, state-owned companies. So it's not like a budget of some ministry, but it's state companies which are throughout Ukraine and are still owned by the government.
Your journalists had been, followed by the security service. Also, there is a defamation campaign against you, against some of the your team reporters. So, really, how does it impact your work, and really, what are current, your relations with the state, with the law enforcement?
Yes. So the security service of Ukraine is the structure which is still unreformed, and it's still very close. To the contrary of other law enforcement agencies, they haven't published publicly their assets declaration. And the law says that they should have published them. So now it is still the law enforcement structure that is really hard to investigate their potential corruption inside of the structure. That's why we are looking very closely into them, into the workers that are working there. We have heard so many complaints on one specific department of Security Service of Ukraine. It's called Economical Department. They have to defend economy of Ukraine. So we heard from business and entrepreneurs so many complaints on this department that they are just simply, starting a criminal case, and then by paying money, this criminal case will be closed and so on. So that we thought, how can we prove in any kind, in any way this. So we simply went to this department, and we put a camera, and we were filming what cars these people that are working in this department are using. And these people are making about probably not more than $400-500 per month. But they are driving cars starting from $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and $50,000. So their cars are much more expensive than they could afford by their governmental salary. We sent a request to Security Service of Ukraine saying that we're going to publish this report. Are you going to comment on this before publishing? They haven't responded, and imagine just 1 hour prior to our program on air, we receive a letter from Security Service of Ukraine which says that if you're gonna publish this story in this way, there will be criminal responsibility by your journalists, because we are secret service and it's not allowed to publish information about our employees. After that, we published this story because I thought that they were just trying to threaten us, because what they do not want is to publish the information not about their secret agents. There was no secret agents in our story, but they don't want to publish information that these people somehow are making much more money unofficially.
I would say dispute between civil society activists and some people from the government, we would be blamed like grant eaters, there is a Ukrainian term, or those who like panickers, so the people who are not seeing that there are good results, sometimes trying just to see the bad side of the government, you know, which especially at this time make Ukrainians very depressed, and, you know, underestimating the good things which are done sometimes by the government in a very difficult times, in the time of the war for Russia. So, you know, like, because, I don't know, like, the more corruption we show, there would be more funds coming for our companies. What would you say on that discussion? And, you know, like, aren't really we are, you know, seeing just the bad things and not mentioning the good things?
I think it's a role of investigative journalism to criticize the government and to find facts, you know, that have been wanted to be hidden, you know, to uncover such facts. It's just a role. We do not have to say about like good things only, you know. We have to uncover bad facts, that's true. But I think that all this agenda, that it's not patriotic to criticize the government, it's inspired by corruptioners mainly, who just want the system to not change.
You were working a lot with international companies on the money laundering schemes, and so in the end there was always, and still we understand that a lot of money laundering may take place because there are the Western companies, there are tax haven. And some of the governments, they let those schemes to take place. Do we see any development? And do we see that, you know, in the end, your old investigation could be, you know, could end in something, and there would be some results, the court, the convictions?
Absolutely, there are already results. Yes, of course, people don't get directly to jail right after the investigation. There should be some process, but also there is no straight effect from investigative journalism, and especially in countries like Ukraine. But there, I would say, major impact of that is that after some stories, we've got new legislation adopted. Let's say public registries are open, electronic declaration law is adopted. Actually, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau was also created because it was a long history of investigating corruption, and not only, of course, but it's a small piece of it. But still, I think it's a result in strategical result and not fast result mainly. But if we talk about more international aspect and especially on offshore problem, I have a personal experience and personal story, because 2 years ago I was in Great Britain taking part into British investigative documentary about the dirty money flowing into London through offshore companies, like corruptioners, like Ukrainian or Russian corruptioners are purchasing real estate. On the name of companies, offshore companies, and nobody know who the real owner is. So this documentary got big impact in the UK, and after that some legislation was adopted in the UK, and it says that you have to disclose who the real owner is, and this campaign on disclosing offshore anonymity is going through the whole world. There are a few new initiatives regarding disclosing of public registries in many countries, also in offshore world. So I think it's a good tendency, and there is a development.